All right, Mr. Ford, this meeting is now live to the public.
Thank you. The Havre de Grace Planning Commission meeting for February 22nd, 2021 will now come to order. I will begin by calling the roll. Chairman Ford is present. Vice Chair Harry Miller, raise your hand. He's present. Mrs. Farhad Shah is present. Right. Mr. Warren Hartenstein is, where did he go?
Mr. Hartenstein is on the call, but his audio and visual is not on right now.
Okay, he was on a minute ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
There he is.
Mr. Hartenstein is present. Mr. Jim Miller is, I see, is present. Councilman Jim Renzacker is present, I see.
Here. And
Mrs. Stephanie Ware is present. And we have a quorum. I just want to briefly review the operating procedures for virtual meetings. If at all possible, try to keep your microphone muted. I'm gonna have to keep mine on so I can run the meeting. And anybody else that feels like they need to have it on because of frequent response, that's understandable. If you wish to speak, whether you're a member of the Planning Commission or anyone else whose picture I can see, if you would just raise your hand, just like this, and I will call on you. I'll see you immediately and I'll call on you as quickly as I can. When we go to a vote at the end of the meeting, I will have to call a voice roll, and each one of the commissioners will need to come on live with their mic to vote yay or nay. Okay. The case that we're hearing tonight is a continuation. The applicant is Bully Rock Investments, LLC. The permit number is 2021-0072 and 2021-0085. It is for a site and subdivision plan approval, is what they're seeking for parcel F in Bully Rock subdivision. Now, since we tabled this at the last meeting, I need a motion to bring it off the table onto the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to bring this off the table onto the floor for further discussion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right. All right. All in favor? Aye. Okay. At this time, I'm going to turn this over to Shane Grimm to give us a synopsis of current information and additional remarks. Mr. Grimm. You're muted. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. So before I begin, I did receive a request from a citizen to read a very brief statement with some questions into the record. And I'd like to do that before my statement, just because my statement, I believe, answers the questions in that email that I received. So if you could just bear with me for a second. This was received from Mr. Kerry Hall, who is a resident of Bully Rock. And he asked me to read into the record this, and it is, with the limited means of egress from Route 40 during construction of Parcel F, construction vehicles will need to access Parcel F from Chapel Road, requiring entry/exit through Blenheim Farm Lane North Gate, through the roundabout, and through Blenheim Farm Lane South Gate. Bully Rock homeowners have three responsibility questions. 1, wear and/or damage to curbs, inlets, and roadways. 2, damage to gates, and 3, adequate roadway width through the golf course. What commitments from the developer can the city ask to be documented to ensure any damage or required repair or resurfacing will be covered by him? And with that, I'd like to begin my remarks, Mr. Ford. And they're a bit lengthy. I do apologize, but I just wanted to make sure that I hit all the points that have been brought up by residents. And I usually don't like to read prepared statements, but I wanted to make sure that I hit everything that was brought up. So again, thank you, Mr. Ford, for the opportunity to once again address the commission concerning the Bully Rock Parcel F subdivision plan. I'd also like to thank the residents of Bully Rock, as well as those in the adjacent fields of Rockland and greens of Rockland, for their thoughtful comments and questions that led to productive discussions on several issues that I will address tonight. The residents have been nothing but courteous and respectful in their emails and phone calls. I'd like to specifically thank Mr. Spahn, Mr. Weiner, and Mr. Benvenga for their excellent questions. In addition, I've had several conversations and emails with Mr. Jeff West, General Manager of the Bully Rock Community Association. The residents of Bully Rock are well served by Mr. West. The Department of Planning and Administration understand the challenges that the residents of Bully Rock have experienced over the last several years with respect to the previous developer and management. The city is pleased to have a renewed spirit of cooperation and understanding with Mr. Ward and Mr. West, and are hopeful that this translates into what the residents and the city desire: a fully built out Bully Rock development as originally contemplated on the concept plan that was approved many years ago. As I stated during the first meeting, Parcel F was previously approved in 2013 and then expired. The subdivision plan before the commission tonight is nearly identical to the previously approved plan, and is in compliance with approved concept plan for Bully Rock. The residents of the golf course side have not had to experience significant construction on their side of the community in several years, and their concerns are understandable. However, Parcel F has always been a part of the plans, and Mr. Ward desires to move forward with the development of the parcel. There are 5 different issues that residents collectively have raised over the past few weeks that have come to my attention and have been relayed to Mr. Ward. We have spoken to Mr. Ward, and it is my opinion that he has addressed the concerns to the city's satisfaction and provided documentation where necessary to answer any and all questions. I intend to briefly address the issues that were raised as what I call common themes of concern. It is my understanding that Mr. Ford will allow Mr. Ward to provide a statement and additional details if necessary. First, the overarching concern that the residents raised concerned the obligation of lot owners in Parcel F to join the Bully Rock HOA. Mr. Ward has stated to me that he intends for Parcel F to be a part of the HOA. Furthermore, I can unequivocally state that the city code section relating to planned adult communities, which Bully Rock was developed under, requires that all lot or unit owners must be a part of the HOA. Therefore, I believe this area of concern has been fully and adequately addressed. 2, the second area of concern relates to emergency and/or construction access at the former at-grade crossing of the CSX Railroad right-of-way. The city has been in discussion with a representative of the railroad concerning the restoration of the gated crossing for emergency access only at this time. While our conversation was productive and informative, we have not received our requested follow-up response from the railroad, that being CSX. Additionally, representatives of the city had a teleconference with staff from Senator Van Hollen's office last week to request assistance in the restoration of the emergency crossing. Rest assured, the city is actively pursuing the restoration or other viable alternatives. 3, the residents have also expressed concern about construction traffic along Blenheim Farm Lane and the impacts to the road and community in general. I understand the concern of residents. Unfortunately, Parcel F is one of the last parcels to be built out on the golf course side and not the first. However, Mr. Ward has stated that he intends to fix any damages to the roads as a result of construction traffic. The Department of Planning has recommended, and the Planning Commission has adopted, a condition requiring Mr. Ward to repair any damage to the roads with respect to recent approvals of parcels N and P. In both instances, Mr. Ward agreed to the condition, and the condition is also reiterated in the department's recommended conditions for Parcel F. All roads in Bully Rock are private roads, and all matters pertaining to maintenance, damages, and repairs must be resolved between the developer and the HOA. 4, there have been questions concerning the ownership and maintenance of Blenheim Farm Lane. The portion of the road on the golf course is owned by Blenheim LLC. The owners of Blenheim LLC understand that there are 3 undeveloped parcels on the golf course side, one of which remains in their ownership. These parcels are F, G, and H. Mr. Ward is the owner of parcels F and H, and Blenheim LLC retains parcel G. Mr. Ward has provided previously recorded documents that specify that Blenheim LLC and their successors and assigns are responsible for the maintenance of the roadway. The documents also provide for administrative and legal remedies should Blenheim LLC fail to meet their obligations with respect to the road. It is also important to note that Mr. Ward will be responsible for upgrading that portion of Blenheim Farm Lane to a 24-foot wide open section road. Those details will be worked out with the Department of Public Works, as all road sections must meet the Harford County Road Code. Number 5, a few residents have raised a question concerning pedestrian connectivity to the sidewalks and trails in the developed portions of Bully Rock. I will allow Mr. Ward to address this in more detail. However, it is important to note that the golf course counted towards the open space requirement for the overall Bully Rock development. The city code provides that all open space must be open and accessible to residents. Is it, in my opinion, and the opinion of the department, that the golf cart paths are suitable for active recreation and connectivity from parcel F to the sidewalks and trails in the developed portions of Bully Rock. However, it has come to my attention that certain documents preclude residents from accessing any part of the golf course for non-golf related activities. 6, lastly, the residents of the adjacent subdivisions have concerns about the removal of forests behind their homes, which was brought up in the first meeting. While I also understand this concern and sympathize, the developer is permitted to modify their approved forest conservation plans at any time, and this is not unusual, provided that they are in compliance with the city's forest conservation program that is codified in the city code. The department respectfully requests that Mr. Ward consider the retention of some trees or consider planting appropriate landscaping. In closing, I would like to remind the commission that only parcel F is under consideration this evening, and only those issues related to the subdivision of the parcel and its compliance with the subdivision regulations and the planned adult community chapters of the city code should be considered. In addition, I applaud the residents' engagement in matters of public concern. The commission would appreciate that any comments directed towards the body, the development team, or the department be specific to parcel F and not other areas of concern unrelated to the development of parcel F. I appreciate the opportunity to address the commission and the citizens who have all taken the time to be present this evening. Thank you, Mr. Ford, and I would be happy to address any questions that you or the commission may have.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. So, fellow commissioners, do you have any questions relating to this information?
I do.
Yes, Mr. Hartenstein.
Mr. Grimm, the Comcast froze up when you were just after you discussed the level crossing for emergency vehicles only at this time. That's as far as it went. Could you briefly restate what you came back in immediately on the next point? What did I miss?
Sure. I just reiterated that the city, the administration, and myself have been actively engaged with CSX, representatives from CSX. We have not received a response that we requested in writing from them. However, recently we were in contact with aides from Senator Van Hollen's office who are working with the city to try to restore that at-grade crossing. And I believe
I'm sorry.
And I believe those conversations have been informative and fruitful, and we're hopeful that we will see some positive outcome from that.
Second question, you talked a bit about the connectivity using the cart paths, and you pointed out that they're restricted to golf only activities. I myself have been kicked off the cart paths. But you, I guess, just left that as an open issue. It's
my understanding that Mr. Ward has had some conversations with Mr. West, potentially about a side path, but I have not been involved in those specific conversations. I just wanted to make the point that there is some conflict, I believe, between what is permitted to be used on the golf, or what residents are permitted or allowed to be on the golf course, and conflict with the city code that says all open space shall be open and accessible to residents.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, at this time I will invite remarks from the applicant and the applicant's team.
Okay. This is Bob Ward. I'd like to start. So good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Ward, owner of Bob Ward Companies, who has purchased the remaining lands, or most of the remaining residential lands at Bully Rock. There's a few things I'd like to comment on, most of which may be a repeat of what Mr. Grimm just said, but I think it's important to restate it. Parcel F will be part of and subject to the Bully Rock Homeowners Association. As far as the homes we intend to have built on Parcel F, they are all detached single-family homes, and the lots in Parcel F are among the largest, if not the largest, in Bully Rock. They're 65 feet wide, which allows for up to a 55-foot wide home. I've not determined who the home builder will be as of tonight, but I've been in discussions with several other builders, and I'm considering building the homes myself there. And all of the homes constructed on Parcel F will comply with the existing Bully Rock architectural guidelines. For construction access, I'm going to have Robert Holwick, the Director of Land Development, go into more detail, but we do have a plan for accessing the site and getting through the gates. Blenheim Farm Lane, that portion that crosses the golf course, will be widened and improved by the developer of Parcel F. As Mr. Grimm mentioned a minute ago, it has been suggested that the improved road include a bike lane, and I'm sure open to having talks with the city about this. For the maintenance of Blenheim Lane, maintenance will continue as is currently prescribed with the owner of the commercial site. That's the site that's between the railroad underpass and Route 40. The commercial property owner is responsible to maintain that. That portion of the road that runs through the golf course, the owner of the golf course property is responsible for that. And then that final portion of Blenheim Road, or the first portion that runs through the Bully Rock gated community, is to be maintained by the Homeowners Association. And there are documents signed that allow any of these parties to enforce maintenance responsibilities on the other. And then I did want to touch on Zachman Way. When I first purchased the remaining lands at Bully Rock, I made a commitment to the city of Havre de Grace and to the Bully Rock Homeowners Association that I would have this road constructed within 3 to 5 years of my purchase. That purchase was in December of 2019. And I remain on track to do this. And I'm somewhat optimistic that this time frame can be accelerated with the faster pace of home sales that we've seen and we believe are to come yet. And that road improvement is fully bonded by my company. So those are my remarks, and I believe Mr. Hirsch would like to speak briefly about entering some information into the record.
Mr. Hirsch?
He's probably muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. One matter of housekeeping. We provided a letter and a series of exhibits sometime around January the 6th, and we would like those documents to be entered into the record of the Planning Commission meeting. And I understand that the members of those documents have been made available to the members of the Planning Commission. Is that true, Chairman Ford?
I'm not sure which documents you're talking about. Mr. Grimm could probably be of greater help with me on that, because we received a package from the department and it had a number of different documents in it.
Mr. Ford, that is the document that Mr. Hirsch prepared. There were several documents that were part of that, and if you recall, I brought all of the Planning Commission members, and that is the document that Mr. Hirsch would like to be entered into the record. And just for the record as well, it is a part of the Department of Planning's file, so it is also public record.
Thank you. Mr. Hirsch, is that acceptable?
Thank you, Chairman. Oh, yes, very much so. One brief comment regarding the cart paths and the golf course. When this project was started, it was my understanding that the golf course was to be open to members of the community in the same way it was open to the general public. And that is to say, a person would have access to the golf course open space if they paid the green fees and complied with the rules of the golf club itself, so that the cart paths are accessible to the residents to the extent they participate in golf or in the golf activity, which would be consistent with access to a swimming pool in compliance with the rules and regulations regarding the use of a swimming pool. So that was the understanding. It was not my understanding that the golf carts would be available to the residents without charge or without complying with the rules of the golf club itself. With that, that would conclude my remarks.
Anyone else on the Bob Ward team? So let me just see if I can see if I understand what we're saying about these cart paths and so forth. Even though that is an issue that probably should not have anything to do with what we're considering tonight, but since it's brought up and in the record, I believe what you're telling me is that people can either rent a golf cart, pay a green fee, and ride up and down the cart path as if they're playing golf, but they just don't carry any clubs with them. Or, on the other hand, is there a mechanism where people can just simply walk the cart path? They're not playing golf. They're not using a golf cart. All they're doing is walking. Can you enlighten us on that?
It's my sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Frank. I just want to clarify my points. My points came up in conversations about who has accessibility to the open space, and there appeared to be some conflict. From a broader goal of the city, certainly the city wants trail connectivity throughout the city, and also the city desires to have less impervious surface. So arguably, if Mr. Ward has to put in a separate trail and path, that's additional impervious surface. So if there was some feasibility to allow for pedestrian movement on those golf cart paths that have accessibility to other parts of Bully Rock, that would be preferable. I'm just making the point that it has come to my attention, as Mr. Hirsch has stated, that there are documents that state that just average Bully Rock residents that do not have any business on the golf course related to playing golf should not be on the golf course. So it's just a broader statement of that would be a preferred method, is not to have additional impervious surface when we already have excellent trails and cart paths that provide the same type of amenity.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Again, I believe that this is an issue that rises above and beyond Parcel F. And so unless anybody disagrees with me, I think that's an issue that has to be resolved separately between the city's requirements for open space, the golf course, and the homeowners association. Any questions from the commissioners of the Bob Ward team? No other clarifications? Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'm going to move to public comment. And who is Mr. Rosinski? Are you teeing up these folks?
Yes, sir. We currently have 6 members of the public in the waiting room.
Okay.
I can bring them in. I'll just bring them all in if
Okay.
that's preferable to you.
While you're doing that, I want to say that each of these folks that wish to speak, we ask you to start out by giving us your name and your address. And then I'll recognize you, as I recognize you, and then I'll invite you to speak, and I'll ask any commissioners if they have any questions of you. Okay, so is it up to me to pick which one's first?
It is.
All right, well, we're just gonna start at the left of the screen.
Mr. Ford, you're muted. There you go. You're unmuted. Mr. Ward, Mr. Ford, before you get started, I just want to reiterate again for those that will be participating from the public. If you are watching on YouTube right now, since you've been entered into the Zoom meeting, you must turn off YouTube because there is a delay and we will not be able to hear you.
Thank you. All right. Sir, would you give us your name and address, please? You're muted. David Frog. I can't read the rest of your name because it's cut off. S-T-E-R-N-B. Sternberg.
Yes, it is Sternberg.
There.
Hi, good evening. I live at 31 Gallant Fox Drive. 301, I'm sorry, 301 Gallant Fox Drive.
Thank you.
Happy Grace.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead, sir.
I didn't have a question. I was just moving my hand at the moment.
I'm sorry.
I did not have a question. I was just moving my hand at the moment.
Well, I'm calling on you if you wish to say anything to the commission.
Well, I just wanted to hear what the commission was going to conclude from this. I live in Bully Rock. My only concern is the amount of construction traffic, given that the railroad crossing can't be opened up. That's a pity.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I'll next go to Samantha Price. If you would unmute, please, and give us your address, please. There you are.
Hello.
Price. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Samantha Price. I live at 1116 Melissa Court in Havre de Grace. I was here participating in this meeting in December, and I happened to communicate with Mr. Grimm my concerns, and so I wrote them down, and I'm just going to read them quickly. I don't want to take too much of your time. When my husband and I purchased our home, we were informed that there would be forest conservation directly behind us and that there would not be homes built in that area. It has since been brought to our attention that, in fact, this is not the intent and homes will be going up behind us in the future. We are concerned about the amount of privacy that not only my family will have, but the surrounding families within the Fields of Rockland community, as well as the Greens of Rockland community will have once this new development is built. Also, we are concerned about the disruption and disturbances this will cause the wildlife that lives in the forest conservation area / the planned development. The idea of having this nature and wildlife directly behind us, traveling in our backyard is part of the reason we purchased our house. On a daily basis, my family can see multiple families of deer and foxes, et cetera, passing through. If parcel F is approved with the current spacing as proposed, the wildlife that is currently living in that area will have no place to go and will lose sight of that current woodline conservation area that is currently there. So we just ask that you take that into consideration going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Price. Mr. Grimm, if you could come back on, do you have any comments to that?
Yes, I have spoken to Ms. Price on a couple different occasions and had the opportunity to email her, and I certainly am sympathetic to that issue. It's not uncommon to have or to be misinformed about what development may be occurring behind the property. Certainly understand that the wildlife and all may be displaced, but certainly that is a result of any development and is unfortunate, but that's the nature of development. With respect to the forest conservation, as I said previously, Mr. Ward has the opportunity to modify that at his discretion, provided it meets the requirements. And Mr. Ward and his development team have provided me in, I guess it was last year, an updated or revised forest conservation plan that met the requirements. And as with any large development, I anticipate that that'll be revised subsequently. Again, that's just the nature of a large scale development.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. I will now move to Mr. Bipin Patel. And I don't see a mute, so Mr. Patel, can you hear us? One more time, Mr. Patel. Mr. Rosinski, how long is that delay? Do you think?
There really shouldn't be a delay if he's in the Zoom meeting. Mr. Patel, can you hear us?
Okay, we're going to move along. If Mr. Patel comes back on, we'll try to give him a shot. Mr. David Kent. Mr. Kent, if you would unmute and please give us your address.
Hi, sorry, I'm actually just, I'm eating dinner and I'm just listening. I was curious to see what if there's somebody from the golf course that was going to respond to any of the comments made regarding the golf course. I live at 315 Victory Gallup. I mean, spent a lot of time at the golf course. So that's all. I was just listening. Nice job, guys.
Thank you. Is that your puppy dog?
That is my dog, Gus. And just to let you know, I clean up after him all the time.
Very good.
Always cleaning up after the dog.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to Mr. David Weiner.
Yes, good afternoon, good evening, Commission. I have had very productive discussions with Mr. Grimm over the past several days, been very educational and been very patient with many of the members of the community. And Mr. Ward, I want to commend you on as a city citizen and your interest in Bully Rock and seeing a successful product completed here. The only two questions I have, one of maybe out of scope for this meeting, is I could see a strong probability of construction traffic backup coming from parcel F into the gated community with only one entrance at point of egress at the golf course. I think you call it the south entrance. And I guess, so the first of my two questions that remain would be, is there some thought on being able to get a separate resident versus visitor construction egress for entrance into the community, similar to all the other gate points and similar to the additional construction road that we have over on the resident side?
Thank you, sir.
The second question would, I mean, you can respond to that, or I can give you my second question and then go back on mute and I'm done.
Well, let's, Mr. Ward, do you want to, I think you partially responded to that before.
I'd like Robert Holwick, Director of Land Development, to address that.
All right. Mr. Holwick, if you would just unmute. We got your picture. We just need the sound. There you are.
Yeah, Robert Holwick with Bob Ward Company. So we looked at the south gate, which is the gate next to the golf course clubhouse. So there is room there with cooperation of the HOA, the golf course owner. We can get everything together to put a additional northbound access gated lane to alleviate the traffic that backs up past the golf course entrance. So the northbound gate, we would be proposing to move it north up near Risen Star. And that would allow for additional stacking of maybe 6 to 7 vehicles. So we have to have it, review it, get a traffic engineer and all that, but that would alleviate the backup on the golf course side. Then on the southbound side, we would look at widening the area, widening the lane to allow for the wider trucks to come through. So those are proposed, but we would have to work with everyone and get cooperation from the golf course. Then up at the new north gate, the northbound lane is adequate to let the trucks through. It's the southbound side that would need work. So we looked at that, and having gone through that gate since it was opened, and I noticed that most residents shoot into the visitor side of the gate. They don't do the resident side because of the turn they have to go back into to get over to the resident side. So most residents go in the visitor side. And that was due to, we believe, to stay out of the city's right away when the gate was built. So on that, we would propose widening the road on the city side. So we would need to work with the HOA and the city to widen the residents' entrance there. And then that would allow for additional stacking and larger vehicles to come in. So the gates can be upgraded to handle, we feel, the heavier, bigger vehicles. That's all I have to say.
I have a question while you're on that subject. When construction vehicles are coming through a gate that's manned, a gate guard, what's the procedure? I mean, do they just automatically see it's a construction vehicle and they just wave them on through, or do they have to slow down and go through a process?
How we have it over at the main gate is the contractors have permits to come in. So at the main gate, the construction entrance is only being used now for larger vehicles. So vans and smaller trucks go through the main gate on that. So over on the golf course side, the south gate is unmanned. So they just communicate with the north gate guardhouse. So there's not a human being there, a guard there on the south gate. So there's been folks that live on that side, a noticeable delay if someone's having trouble entering or the code or contacting the guardhouse at the north gate. So the vehicles stack up past the golf course parking lot. So if we would put an additional northbound gate and move the gate up towards Risen Star, that would significantly allow for more vehicles to stack there if someone's having a problem. Then we would also look at, there's no turnout lane. If someone goes in there and stops and didn't want to go there, they have to go in the community and come back out. So again, if the golf course, if we can work something out with them, we would like to see a turnout lane that they could turn around and keep the stacking moving instead of sitting there and taking 5 minutes to decide what to do.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm looking at my list of citizens here, and is Mr. Patel available now?
Mr. Patel, can you hear us? I would say he's not available. I do have one more member of the public I'll let in right now.
Or if you'll just let him in and let that person in, and is this Mr. Charles Deese?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you give us your address, sir. I believe you're muted.
There he is.
There you are, Mr. Deese. You're still muted though. There you are. Now you're on.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's 517 Risen Star, Havity Grace 21078.
Thank you.
Sorry I'm late.
It's okay. Did you have anything you wanted to say or have any questions?
I do not. I just want to listen in.
Very good. Thank you, sir, for monitoring the meeting. I think that covers everybody. Is that right, Adam?
It is. That is everyone from the public, except Mr. Patel, who, except Mr. Weiner has his hand up right now.
Yeah, Mr. Weiner. You're muted, sir.
I'm muted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Trying to respect the speaking. The second question, I had heard from Mr. Jeff West that Mr. Bob Ward had procured parcels F and G, F being Del Mar Park that we're discussing tonight, and parcel G being the blue ribbon down. Both of them are outside the community. And what Mr. Grimm had indicated was that Mr. Bob Ward acquired Del Mar Park F and then Canterbury Park, which is inside the gated area, which is H. Does that mean that Blue Ribbon Downs, which is outside the gated community, continues to be owned by the golf course, and the discussion and zoning of that will have to wait for another time?
Let me go to Mr. Grimm on that one.
Yes, I apologize. I don't have the concept plan up in front of me, and many others are better at knowing the letters, the parcel numbers or letters.
Well, let me go to Mr. Ward if you want.
Yeah, I would suggest he's better with the numbering.
All right.
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. Parcel H was not part of my purchase. That's a smaller piece, really kind of dead center of the golf course. That was retained by the golf course owners.
I'm actually comfortable with what you just said, Mr. Ward, in that the two sections outside the community would be the ones that I'm very, very pleased that you are the developer and going to have custodial oversight on. So yeah, H is within the gated area, and we indeed will be part of the HOA. As G, if you're saying F and G are yours and F and G are part of the HOA, we're in great shape.
I think I'm doing a Shane and get mixed up too. The G, is it G that's outside the gate?
Yeah, it's G is owned by the golf course.
So G was not part of my purchase. I misspoke on that.
Okay.
That is owned by the golf course.
So there is risk that G could be done down the road, could be developed outside of the golf course. It could be developed by the builder, by the golf course, and could be advocated to still have access to the community, but not be part of the HOA as you have proactively worked into F and H. Is that correct?
I think Shane, Mr. Grimm can address that, but I believe the city's going to require it whenever that comes in to be part of the HOA. Mr. Grimm?
Yes, it doesn't matter who owns any of the parcels. They're all subject to the same requirements and same city code requirements. They'll come before the planning commission, just like this plan came before the planning commission, and we'll do the same thing over again when the time comes with those plans are submitted.
Very well. That ends my questions. Thank you, Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Weiner. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Steinberg has his hand up.
Where'd he go? Where is he?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sternberg.
All right. I'm looking for his.
Right
There you are, right in front of me.
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
I have some questions about the golf course road itself. It's narrower than the roads that are inside the community or any of the other city roads. I also suspect it's not built to the same standard in terms of depth and foundation of the road with construction heavy vehicles back and forth on that. It's going to be very tricky. I don't know how two trucks will get past each other if they're heading in opposite directions. Has anybody talked to the golf course about widening or strengthening that road?
I think that's been addressed, Mr. Ward. I want to go back and speak to that again, because I believe you're planning to widen that road.
It's going to be an obligation of the developer of parcel F to widen and improve that road, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the public? Any commissioners have any questions of any person from the public that has just spoken? Mr. Hartenstein, your hand's up. You need to unmute.
Yeah, my question is really for Mr. Holwick. You talked about the south gate being widening the road at the south gate. There's a personnel path and then a steep drop off into the parking lot on one side, and on the other side is a homeowner. I'm not sure how you, especially if you have a dual lane there. I'm not sure how you accomplished that. Have you looked at it? Is there any further thinking about that?
Yes, this is Robert. So yes, we looked at the walking path that terminates at the parking lot exit. So that trail would have to be relocated. So basically the northbound visitor construction gated would go over that trail. So we would have to look at either putting it on the other side, because I don't think we can use the golf cart path. So there is room to do a cross the street and come down on the other side. So that's going to take more thought, but there's roughly 20 feet from the curb over to the mechanicals there. There's a Verizon pedestal. There's 2 Verizon.
Right.
I think you just went to mute. There you are.
But it, and there would be some, trees and stuff to come out as well, but it can go in there.
Okay, I think you meant when you talked about the northbound gate, you were saying that residents tend to go through the visitor gate. Is that, am I understanding that comment correctly? Your comment, Robert?
Yeah, so what happens when you come approaching the gate, you come down the boulevard, the road wasn't widened on the city's right of way. So to get into the resident side, you got to come down and
swing out
turn
to the right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed it's like a chute. So everybody comes around there and they just slot right into the visitors gate.
I live right by that gate, and my observation is a little different than yours. For one thing, there's a lot of people that pile up talking to the people inside the booth. But nonetheless, the idea is to widen the general public, the road above, and the general public, or the resident access side for your vehicles. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. As talking with Jeff West, he said if there's a few cars stacked on the visitor side,
right,
then the resident's gate is blocked. If there's 3 cars backed up on the visitor's gate, that a car can't get over to the resident's gate until one moves. So if you go back, so you got to turn, you live there, so you see, but I was there yesterday afternoon about 3:30, and someone came in and just, there's a resident, whacked the gate and went through it on the visitor side.
I haven't observed that, but obviously you have. One thing I will say, in the general comment around here about the construction of the North Gate is you could build the pyramids faster. So I hope the whatever modifications you make don't go on forever the way that project has. Anyway, it's completely subjective and off the topic, but good luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move into another phase of this this hearing, this process.
Mr. Ford, if I may, before we move into the next phase, I would respectfully request, due to the shifting back and forth between platforms, that the participants will be removed from the Zoom meeting and they should go back to the YouTube meeting. So we will be removing them. You can still watch the YouTube meeting. So we'll give them about 30 seconds to be removed, go to YouTube, and then we can restart our deliberations.
Fine. It looks like you took care of everybody. We ready to go?
I believe all members of the public are off the Zoom call right now.
Yeah, I don't see them here. Okay. We've done a lot of talking about a lot of things, but we really haven't rolled up our sleeves and gotten down and focused on parcel F itself. And before we just go straight into a deliberation among the commissioners, are there any commissioners here that have questions specifically about the layout of parcel F that they would like to have the developer answer or address? Okay, I don't hear any. If we find that we have to, we can still come back and do that as we proceed. So at this time, I would like to hear commissioners' comments, opinions, thinking regarding parcel F. All you gotta do is raise your hand and I'll recognize you. I don't see any hands going up. Councilman Renzacker. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. While I would like to see the at-grade crossing just for safety and for the construction, I don't think it's a deal breaker. And as long as we can hold parcel F to within the staff report requirements, I have no problem with moving this forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Jim Miller, go ahead and unmute. There you are.
Hi, everybody. I just have one question. Shane, on this 6-page paper you sent out, on the last page, number 15, it says the developer is responsible for obtaining all permits and approvals from MDE and the Army Corps of Engineers for a bridge across Gassy Creek. Gassy Creek is down the road a little ways. It's not part of this development.
Yeah, that was an oversight on my part. There is a tributary. What I meant to say is a tributary to Gashy's Creek.
Okay.
That would need to be constructed, and they would need to get appropriate permits. My apologies.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. I rode out in the snow today to look to make sure that that's what it was. So, all right, that's all.
You're dedicated.
Just doing the job everybody should.
That's right. Okay, comments from any other commissioners or questions or anything? Okay. I also would join Councilman Renzacker in the opinion that after looking at this railroad crossing and looking at all the things that perhaps should have been taken into account years ago. In fact, in my mind, they absolutely should have been taken into account. This Bully Rock overall development is pretty much cast in stone now. Hopefully, one of these years we can achieve some of those goals. Hopefully, a public crossing of the railroad track and so forth. And it may become quite evident years down the road that for safety reasons and other reasons that almost would overwhelmingly be in the public interest to do so. But I think it's gonna take that kind of experience to cause that to happen. And I understand, after spending a great deal of time working with the city on this overall situation since our last meeting. In fact, I was invited to join in on the meeting with CSX. I did not speak at that meeting. I was basically sitting in as an observer. But I was very impressed with the extent to which the city went trying to get from point A to point B. And I am comfortable now that it is absolutely not practical to expect the developer that's in front of us now to be held to that situation when it has already been basically consecrated by previous planning commission, previous Department of Planning. And as an interesting side note, not a single person on city council today, not a single person in the Department of Planning that's basically a director or anything close to that level, and not a single person on the planning commission today was involved in that I'm aware of, except the one guy holding his hand up right now. And that was because he was council liaison to the planning commission at that time, I believe. Is that correct? I think that but anyway.
I was a member, and then I was the council liaison when I got elected.
Right.
I did both roles.
So we're all fresh faces and confronted by this situation, and I think we are dealing with it in the only practical way we can. Having said that, and having seen no other hands up for comments and no other hands up from commissioners with concerns about the Parcel F plat, do I hear a motion? Mr. Miller, Harry Miller.
I'd like to make a motion. My motion would be that the applicant shall comply with all recommendations and suggested conditions of the Department of Planning and Public Works listed in the Department of Planning staff report dated today, 2/22/21.
Second.
Is your motion to approve or disapprove the plat?
To approve.
Okay. You want to restate that part of it? I just want to make sure that that's official. Okay.
So my motion is that we approve the site plan and that the applicant shall comply with all recommendations, suggested conditions, the Department of Planning and Public Works listed in the Department of Planning staff report dated February 22nd, 2021.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Councilman Renzacker seconds. Discussion on the motion. No hands up, no discussion. Then I'm going to call.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Ford, Mr. Miller has his
I see.
hand up.
Yeah, I just have one question, and it's on the Department of Planning. It's number 8, and it talks about lot 1040, 1041, 1042 shows fill in the floodplain. Is that happening, or is that just an assumption based on the drawing?
It's based on the drawing, but final engineering and grading has not been done yet, so it may be removed. It's just a notification to the developer, which is a standard kind of notification, and they're aware of it, that any fill in the floodplain will have to meet the floodplain management program requirements and may require permits from MDE and the Army Corps of Engineers.
That answer your questions. All right. Anything else? Any other discussion? Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to call the vote. Vice Chair Harry Miller.
Yes.
Mrs. Farhad Shah.
Yes.
Councilman Jim Renzacker.
Yes.
Jim Miller.
Yes.
Stephanie Ware.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, and I will ask now Warren Harnstein.
Yes.
So the motion carries. The site plan is approved by unanimous vote. And thank you so much, everyone, for all of the study and effort you put into this project. Are there any other business for the good of the commission? Mr. Jim Miller?
Yes, I have a couple housekeeping things that I wanted to bring up. One, back on December 14th, I I brought up about getting ID cards for the commission members, and just want to know what the progress is on that. The other thing that, for a point of reference, under the City Code 25-25, the powers and duties of the commission, number 1 says the commission shall review all applications for amendments to the zoning text and map and report to the commission's findings to the recommendation. Done when the last couple ordinances were passed. They were not brought to the attention of the planning commission for discussion, and they were voted on and passed. So I think in the future, we need to be sure that we get our proper cut at that. And the last thing is the comprehensive plan is coming up for review in 2022, which is 10 months from now. And if you read the current comprehensive plan, we've already done and it exceeded a lot of what was in there. And some of the information in there is based on the 2000 census, the 2010 census data is out there now, the 2020 should be coming along sometime soon. So I think we need to start talking about that as a committee. And in the budget, we need to put some money away for getting that done.
Mr. Graham?
Sure. Mr. Miller, I bring everything to the Planning Commission. I believe there may have been one minor ordinance that was not reviewed by the Planning Commission. Every major ordinance that I brought before the commission, the subdivision regulations, the site plan ordinance, all of that has been brought before the commission for review, and I've reported that back to the administration and council during discussions with them during pre-agenda meetings and all of that. I can only think of one that may have gotten through by accident, which was a minor ordinance and some ordinances that the city attorney crafted on her own with changes to that. With respect to the ID cards, quite frankly, I am extremely busy right now, and I do not have time to investigate that. So I would strongly encourage you to talk over that with the administration yourself, maybe with Director of Administration, Patrick Seipolt. And then with respect to the comprehensive plan, we are already on top of that. And Diane Clare of my office has been working on the update to that. The administration has given the go-ahead to the Department of Planning to begin the preparations of the background work for the comprehensive plan. And when we are ready, we will bring it to the Planning Commission for discussions and public engagement and community input.
I might add, or might suggest that perhaps rather than an ID card, that that there just be a simple letter issued, perhaps with the mayor's signature. It could be accomplished in one nice paragraph, because a gate guard's going to not want to read a whole lot of stuff. But it would just be basically asking anyone whose property we have to enter onto on official business, that they grant us access per, and then you can just reference the state code, because it's in the state law that we, if we're on official business, we can enter into property, even railroads. You know, if in the pursuit of stuff like we've just been dealing with. Now, you wouldn't want to just walk into somebody's backyard that's got a mean dog, but you know, without contacting them, of course. But I think something like that might be a lot simpler to get out, and could be done in 15 minutes, and then just crank out the copies and with our names on them. And that's just a suggestion. Any other business for the good of the commission? Anyone? Okay. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn? Mr. Miller moves that we adjourn. Second? Councilman Renzacker seconds. All in favor? Aye. Thank